Hey there, it's DM Scott. That's right, I'm talking to you. Yeah, you, the chubby guy wearing the This Is How I Roll t-shirt. Why don't you ditch that ratty old t-shirt that's 2 sizes too small for you? Where'd you get that? Baby Gap? Head on over to our Merch and More store on our epic new website. Grab yourself some Dungeon Masters Dojo logo wear. You won't regret it. Rock that t-shirt like the nerd boss you are. It's sleek and it's black, and everyone knows that black is slimming. Hell, I look like a slender 3XL when I'm wearing this black shirt. Not only will you look deceptively less chunky, but with that bold red and white logo, you look like a superhero. And who doesn't want to look like a superhero? So head on over to the DungeonMastersDojo.com merch and more to fill your bag with our swag. See you next time in the dojo. Support the Dungeon Masters Dojo by heading over to Apple Podcasts and Podchaser and leave a review. Take the time to leave a comment as well. This helps make us more searchable to those listeners interested in content such as ours. But more importantly, we want to know how we are doing and what topics you would like to hear about.
Another way you can support the DMD is by buying the DMD a beer, so we can continue to deliver quality content to you, our listeners. This also helps us upgrade and replace equipment. Head over to buymeacoffee.com/the DMD and buy us a beer, or 3, or 5. Don't forget to say something nice or mean. We don't care. You're buying us a beer. Now on to this week's episode. Hey, dude, you left your keys.
Shh. I'm in my mind palace.
Your mind palace.
Yeah, it's where I go to solve mysteries. My keys have gone missing. Mischief is afoot.
You left your keys in the door. Never mind. This is our look at Candlekeep Mysteries, the newest addition to 5e Dungeons & Dragons.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Dungeon Masters Dojo podcast. This is a show for game masters and players alike. We hope to bring you tips and tricks to elevate your game and develop the art of dungeon mastery. I'm your host, Louis Aponte, and these are your Dungeon Masters, Scott Labby and Bill Robotile. Let's enter the dojo and see what they have in store for us today. Hey, Bill. Hey, Scott.
Don't bother Scott. He's in his mind palace.
Shh. He must be all alone.
I found my keys. They were in Bill's hand.
Because I took them from the door where he left them. How can you miss that giant skeleton key to get into the Lyceum? It's cumbersome, and you forget where you put it.
I was in a hurry.
You have to use 2 hands to turn it, and you still forgot it.
I have a big hand. I just need one. I had a cheeseburger in the other.
So now we've gotten to the root. Mystery solved.
Of the mystery.
Speaking of mysteries,
we have a new book.
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
It's got candles in it.
And keeps and mysteries.
That's right. It's Candlekeep Mysteries here on the Dungeon Masters Dojo.
It's so let's get our Poirot on and check this out. We were going to have Angela Lansbury on the show, but she couldn't make it. It was Jello night at the Shady Pines Rest Home.
Oh, so it was tapioca night. You wouldn't be seeing me.
Yeah, who better? Yeah, Bill knows her from Shady Pines. Who better to talk mysteries than Angela Lansbury? But unfortunately, it is Jello night at the home.
She was hot when she was young.
What was she? Was she ever young?
Compared to me.
Well,
okay. No argument there. So, about the book, what do you guys think of it?
So, do you want to go in depth, or you just want to kind of gloss over it this time around, and we'll dig deeper later?
Let's give our listeners our first impression of the book without getting into like a lot of the nitty-gritty, because
fair enough.
I think if we were to get into the nitty-gritty, we could probably talk for quite some time.
This is true. So straight out of the gate, first one thing I do, I flip through the book and look at the pictures. I like the artwork in this book.
The artwork is nice. I am disappointed to see that Robert Pattinson has not made an appearance, but Charlton Heston from the Ten Commandments has on page 201.
Yes. So. Okay, so I'm not the only one that thought that. Okay.
Yeah, the artwork's pretty dope. It's in that same style that these books from 5th edition has been in, but it works. It works. I like it.
Go to page 111 and tell me that doesn't look like Marcus when you.
I thought about that one too. That's the wizard, isn't it?
Yeah. When you explain to him, yeah, you failed, and now your head is up a giant's buttocks.
Not a place for one's head to be.
That is the look he gave.
Yes. That certainly is. Yeah, nice full color artwork. There is an awesome map in the back.
I was going to save that till last, but as a map guy, I was so happy to see the maps throughout it, and then I get to the back and there's a detachable map that looks that good. Super psyched. Like that a lot.
Yeah, I love any book that they put out that's got a map in the back. I mean, that's instantly got me sold. Eberron Rising was like that. Yep. They have a map in the back, which is pretty cool. I love a map, and it's it's kind of it's suitable for framing. So you can hang it in your nerd cave.
Yeah, but why not? Quick reference that way. You don't have to keep pulling it out.
That's right. It's perfect. The right by your gaming table, easily accessible to any of your players, and it makes for a nice decoration.
And if you can get one of your table people to have really nice penmanship, give them a silver marker and just kind of, write anyone's name but theirs in the corner. And when your wife yells at you or girlfriend yells at you about why the hell is this damn thing hanging down here, it's a signed piece of artwork.
Yeah.
It's out here on display.
Yeah, by Phil.
Yes. Phil McNichol.
Yeah. So we got this clocks in at 224 pages. Nice, kind of glossy pages. Same style as every other book that they've put out so far for 5th edition. You get some new monsters.
Mm-hmm.
Like page 123, the corrupted avatar of Luri, or LaRue, I should say. It almost looks like some sort of fell steed.
Yeah, dark unicorn.
Yeah, it's a way more badass version of a unicorn.
Yeah, tenfold.
So what you got here is an adventure anthology, which I really, really like. It's I was a big fan growing up of anthology TV series. What was it, The Dark Room?
Yes.
Of course, Outer Limits and
Twilight Zone. I love the Outer Limits. Oh.
And the backdrop is Candlekeep. And I think from the looks of it, just perusing your the book that you have in front of you, you can theoretically take a party of adventurers from first level all the way up to level cap.
They actually level it out on page 5. They have a little graph there, starting level 1, a description of what that particular adventure is, and it becomes progressive, and everything feeds into everything else. Even though you don't necessarily have to follow in this order, and we've always said you can scale things up or down as necessary. So if they find themselves going off on a tangent, it's not that big of a deal. And I haven't delved deep enough into the book to see whether or not it actually made allowances for that. But any game master can do that themselves.
Yeah,
but it lays it all right out there from level 1 all the way up to 16, and it looks pretty cool.
Yeah, and the beauty of this is it's almost episodic, right? And you have these really the names of the adventures are just really, really cool.
Oh, it is. And what the good thing about this book is the only two other books you need are the Player's Handbook and the DMG.
Yes.
Yep. Yeah, it does not require the entire set of fifth ed books, and that's one of the huge draws for me anyway to this is, okay, if I'm a new DM, right, I just need the Player's Handbook, the DMG, and then I could get this book. And I probably have enough in this book to run my adventuring party, my table through for probably the next 6 months.
Yeah,
8 months.
Yeah, you don't need a campaign book because this can be, ran right out of a town, or out of keep. I should say.
Yeah.
Instead of running through a whole scenario.
And it's like eating the elephant, right? You're going to do it one bite at a time.
Yep.
And so it's broken up into these nice little bite-sized morsels, so you only have to really know this one short adventure really well. You don't have to read an entire campaign book, like Horde of the Dragon Queen, where you got to read that from beginning to end a couple times. And then
even a worse one is Strahd's Curse.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I was going to say that.
You got to know the book before you sit down at your session one. You got to know the whole thing. But with this, you have to know just that tidbit. So you can refer to it frequently.
I think the only thing you need to know is what level you start at. So if you start at level 1, when you're done with that little tidbit, where are they going to be? What level are they going to be? Are they going to be level 3, level 4?
Yeah.
So now you could just go look for something in that range for the next time and be prepared. It's everything in a pocket for you.
Yeah, it's great. And I was always, I never ran, I'm not going to say never because that's not true. I didn't run store-bought, those retail modules for many, many, many years. When I first started, I did the Sinister Secret of Salt Marsh and Hidden Shrine of Tomoakan and stuff like that when they first came out. And then I stopped. I did all my own stuff after that. I did all my own writing, my homebrew adventures. And I just thought, it's for these retail adventures are for, lazy DMs that have no creativity. And that's just not true, because as I grew older, I was like, wow, you don't have a lot of time to write a lot of campaigns from beginning to end. We always take the time to do that, but this is a great tool for a brand new DM or even a veteran DM. And I would totally run this at my table with some brand new characters.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Is that what we're calling them now? Retail adventures?
I don't know.
Am I no longer allowed to call them modules?
You could call them modules. I call them.
Is that politically incorrect now?
Well, they're not even called modules anymore.
They're
called
not.
Campaigns.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, the terminology.
So I'm 4 or 5 steps out of. Shows you how often I use them.
Yeah, it's for lack of a better term, that's what I call them, because people are, when I talk to younger people, I'm like, hey, did you check out the new module that they put out? They're like, what are you talking about? I'm like, the module, dude. I thought you were a gamer. And they're like, what are you talking about? Like Curse of Strahd or, the campaign. I'm like, yeah, whatever. But, they're.
Well, no, if you said campaign, I would have gotten that. But then, retail adventures.
Yeah,
you threw me a curveball there. I'm like, oh, they change it again?
No, that's what I came up with.
Oh, okay.
Because I keep forgetting they call them campaigns. Because I call them modules.
As do I.
And they will forever be in my mind as modules, because that's what it was. But I would run this all day.
Oh, these are an excellent source. So if you're running a campaign, a module, or a retail adventure, and let's say your party you don't want to railroad your party, they want to do something a little different, you can just take one of these and pop it into your already existing campaign.
Yeah,
and run it that way as well.
Yeah, just change some of the names.
You don't even have to do that. They could just stumble upon it, yes. And now they can find out about Candlekeep through this as well. So when they want something different, they can always go back.
Yay, the joys of extra-dimensional travel.
Yep.
Yeah, it's and without getting too much into incorporating retail adventures into your existing campaign, because we are going to do a whole episode on that coming up relatively soon as part of the Your Campaign series.
Yep.
But tune in for that one. We'll talk about how to use those retail adventures, campaigns, modules, whatever have you.
Well, we'll talk about how he uses them and how I use them.
Yeah, because while there's some similarities, there's
Big
certainly differences. Yeah. This is one that I would probably use pretty much the way it is. After flipping through it and looking at it, I would use it pretty much how it is laid out. And the background and the framework would be just slightly different. You would have to incorporate your adventuring party in there. Why are they there? What are they, what is the purpose? Ask all these questions and then, plug them in and run these adventures. But it's probably the first one. I own all of them and have never played any of them, never ran any of them. But I would definitely do this. This is the one that speaks to me the most.
I have to agree. Like I said, all you need is the 2 core books and this one. So for any starting GM that's really not sure how to go about running a game or what to put together, I think this is a good combination for that.
I think it's a great combination.
I think the big attraction for me, just flipping it over, and like I said, on page 5, from level 1 to level 16, it doesn't matter where you start, you have somewheres where you can place them. So, like you said, how do you get them there? Well, it might be one of those, you have an ongoing adventure with just a little bit of research and a little bit of setup. You could steer them towards they need something at such a location, information, a spell or something, and get lured into this and find out, all right, or not exactly finding what they want, but here's a bunch of cool stuff anyways, so let's kind of, see what else we can find while we're here.
Exactly.
And all you got to do is make hints and incorporate your little tidbit in there as well. And you have to obviously do a little bit of reading ahead of time, find out which one of these sections is going to work best for your introduction and your little tidbit to be worked into, and then just work off the book and let them build towards it and just leave little hints. Yeah, you're getting closer, getting warmer. Oh, yeah, I heard that, but that's over in this section of the library, and now they got to go through the adventure in the book looking for their little tidbit and then finding stuff that's going to lead them to somewhere else as well. So,
yeah, I gave this some thought as far as getting the characters into the adventure, and the first one there is The Joy of Extra Dimensional Spaces, the title of which I love. So it starts with a book. And I would pick a character who is more bookish maybe than the others. And maybe they work there at Candlekeep doing something, janitorial work or whatever, maybe a librarian's aide, and just bringing his friends in to see, kind of like his workspace.
Hey, get a load of this.
Come check it out. Look at all these books.
The wonders.
Yeah. And, thinking that this is really a cool thing. It is probably the coolest thing that I could think of. But, maybe their friend who's a barbarian, or maybe their friend who's a fighter is more concerned about how many push-ups he can do or she can do, may not be as excited. But, usually when we're excited about something, we just kind of like assume that everybody else is going to be. So they bring them in there, and while they're poking through bookshelves, they find this book.
All I can see is Lou coming in with like a barbarian or a fighter going, hey, those look really, really old. I bet you they're really flammable.
We'll move on from here.
So there's a lot of ways that you can, kind of incorporate these into your own campaign. You can use them as standalones for a brand new GM. It's a good place to start. Take it as is. I would think this is probably one of the better campaigns that they had put out just for that purpose.
One of the few that's actually got a hardcover.
Well, it eliminates a lot of the, because I see this in the forums all the time. What book should I get next? Or I'm a starting GM. What do I need?
Yeah, I have a player's handbook and I have the DMG, but what do I need next?
Oh, well, I was reading and somebody says, I'm picking up Candlekeep. What, as a GM, what should I start with? Well, all you need is the player's handbook and the DMG.
Yeah.
You don't need Tasha's. You don't need Xanathars. You don't need
Eberron. Yeah, you don't need any of those.
No.
You may want them. Your players may want them, but you don't need them.
Let's start. Yeah, get
and
those eventually.
And if your players are starting just like you, keep them away from the other stuff. Just stick with the core books. Stick with the player's handbook. Let them build. There's more than enough in there to let them build. They don't have to get eccentric and exotic yet. That time will come. Let them get their chops.
Oh, it does. I mean, like I went through the book. I know we're going to go a little bit more into it, but I like where the book takes you. It takes you to all the different realms and Forgotten Realms. It takes you to the Carter Tour. It takes you to Al-Qadim. I mean, I know they're not physically mentioned, but the landscapes remind me of those.
Yeah, and I would go as far as to say that is the intent without naming them.
Yes.
Because, those supplements or whatever have you haven't come out yet. But for those of you out there that have been playing for a long time, Al-Qadim and Karatur were part of the Forgotten Realms, and they were pretty substantial campaign supplements, equally as large as Forgotten Realms itself, and cool stuff. So you get to bounce around the campaign world quite a bit, which is pretty neat.
It is.
Well, nothing else. It helps tee things up for when they are, hopefully they are going to release these new supplements and rewrite them and reintroduce them in the 5e world. And so here's the tee up. Here's the teaser.
I think that's what this is.
Yeah,
really, I do.
And I hope it is.
Some of the like I said, I went through the book a little bit, and some of the characters and just the NPCs or even the backgrounds that you see, it's all reminiscent of those old, at least from my era, 2.5, 2 and 2.5 supplements.
And that's the thing to keep in mind too, and this has very little to do with this book that is sitting in front of us, but D&D has been a multicultural, multichromatic world for a very long time. Only in the early AD&D days where it was very monochromatic, but once 2 and 2.5 especially, it became a very multicultural, multichromatic kind of game world, which was nice to see. But it's been that way for 30 years, I would say. Plus. Probably, yeah. So it's nice to pull all these different exotic locations of Forgotten Realms into something like this book, where you kind of get a little taste of these different lands,
the flavors of yore.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I'd really like to see them pursue these and reintroduce those worlds.
I'm waiting for Al-Qadim myself. That's one of my favorites.
Yep.
And I liked Al-Qadim. I played around in it for quite a bit, but I really love Karatur. I really love.
Those are my top two of all the campaign settings. Karatur and Al-Qadim were my favorites.
I would have to agree with you. One of the, I think the thing that speaks to me the most about this book is this is a book that is very much so like the D&D that I originally fell in love with. It was very magical, very fantastic, just very old style.
Well, the way it's laid
D&D.
It's laid out is very, very reminiscent of the original modules, campaigns, right down to the maps. And
yes.
The notes for the maps, it's very, very reminiscent of some of the early work. So I hope they didn't just stumble upon it. I hope they went back and went, hey, gee, that looked pretty cool. Let's do that.
Yeah, and the stuff when you read like the descriptions of these, right? A book leads characters on a quest to find a missing sage. There's one about a genie. trapped in a book, offering wish spells, an unsolved mystery about a wandering stone golem in the desert. Just very, very D&D, old school D&D kind of vibe to it. You know, the old D&D stuff was really kind of, I don't know, pulpy. Some of this stuff was, you know, back when I was 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, you know, in my teen years, it was, you know, it was fantastic going back and revisiting it now and listening to retro RPG reviews and Dave, you know, giving his history lesson on these things and reviewing these old modules and the whatnot. A lot of them were kind of poorly done. They weren't of the same quality, you know,
by no means
as the stuff today.
But it's the best we had at the time.
It is. It was a fledgling thing, but this smacks of a lot of that old stuff without being or having that feel of kind of being haphazard or, you know, slapped together or rushed, you know, not having the time to finish it or whatever have you.
I mean, make no mistakes. I'm going to find something wrong with it that I don't. Well, not wrong. I'm going to find something I don't like about it.
I'm surprised you haven't already.
Same way.
But I think you're right. It's laid out amazingly well. The maps are done well. There's tons of references, and it does have that old school feel without the old school. What's missing from the old school stuff? This stuff has all the information you need, and it was well thought out and well laid out. So, you know, and this is just a quick perusal. I haven't really read it. I mean, I know Lou's read it probably cover to cover like 16 times already.
A couple times.
Because that's Lou. I kind of thumbed through it a couple times, and something would catch my eye, and I'd read a little bit, then I'd start thumbing through again, and I'd come back again and do the same. So I've been through it a couple times on and off, and everything I've looked at, no matter where I've just opened up the book, it had that old school feel, but it had the new fleshing out.
Yep,
modern twist.
The modern, you know, I don't know if it's necessarily it's definitely modern, but it's not lacking the information that you had to make up. Right? Fledgling DM can grab this, and everything you need is right there, spelled out for you. Dialogue boxes, descriptions, maps. It's all in there.
That's what I was going to say. What this book really does. And what I really like about it, it takes not just a campaign, especially for a new DM, not just a campaign, but it takes the magic items and the NPCs from an entry level to almost an epic level.
Yes.
Especially with the NPCs and the magic items near some of the end. There's a couple of them that I consider epic level.
Yeah.
We won't get into those now, but as a book as it is, this is one book I think every new GM should pick up. That's just my opinion.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
Without a doubt.
It will help you along the way because it lays everything, the foundation for you to effectively run a game because it has everything there for you. And I'm not saying that the campaigns don't, like the Curse of Strahd and those, but those books can be very confusing, especially when you run into like the Curse of Strahd, which has multiple sections where if your campaign goes in one direction or another, you need to know ahead of time where they're going. This one you can plop and put into place what you want.
And to give an idea, it's when you look at, Curse of Strahd is probably about as big as this book. I don't have the page count memorized, but it's probably about as big, maybe a little bit smaller, but it's, exactly what Bill said. It's a comparable size. So you have to know that book, right? Before you even start and sit at the table to talk session 0, you got to know that book. You got to know what directions you could be going in, what directions the curveballs your players are going to throw you because it's going to happen. For this, we'll take the joy of extra dimensional spaces because it's the first one in the book. I love the name. But as a DM, right, for a new DM, this adventure runs from page 17 to page 25, right? So you can feasibly read this over and over and over and over and over again. You can do this. You can revisit this whole thing the day before you run this adventure, right? If by some chance it lasts more than 1 3 or 4 hour game session, which is probably going to, you can read this again. And you're going to know it backwards and forwards, so you're going to have that confidence that new GMs often don't have. But reading like 8 pages is a hell of a lot easier for a brand new GM, even a veteran GM for that matter, than reading like 200 and something pages before you even sit down for session 0, because these aren't the kind of things you can really wing.
Yeah, true.
So this I like.
So far, so do I.
Yeah,
I'm surprised.
what is I was gonna run this campaign. I'm trying to use the right terminology so I could keep up with the kids. It's the one that Jerome is running on D20 to Curtin. What is it? Horde of the Dragon
Horde
Queen?
of the Dragon Queen. That's the beginning. It goes into Tyranny of Dragons.
Tyranny of Dragons afterwards. And I was like, I'm not going to run it because I've listened to enough of Jerome, who claims he's a brand new GM, run it and having it sound real good. So I'm like, I think I'll try something else, because, when you watch someone do something really well and then you try to do it, you're like, man, I suck at this. And I shouldn't feel that way because I've been doing this long enough. I shouldn't suck, right? There's that expectation. So I may run this. I may run this. And,
there you go, Jerome. You ruined Scott.
You and that goddamn Matt Mercer. But this, even for a GM who hasn't run one of, I would swear I was like maybe 13 last time I ran a retail adventure, and we called them modules back then. And that was a long time ago.
Yeah.
That was like 37 years.
Another point with this it helps, like when we came over from 2.5, it was a whole new world. This will help the GMs get their thoughts and put everything down and get it correctly to,
That's a good point. Yeah.
Because when we came over, we were looking at the campaign books and all the other books, and we're like, oh shit, this is a whole new learning lesson.
It was close, but even some of the terminology changed.
Yep.
A lot of the rules was streamlined where we were used to minutia.
Yep.
And a lot of it.
There was a lot of moving parts in 2.5, a whole lot.
Yes. And then you stream it down, and we were kind of like, oh, crap, I thought I knew how to play this game. All right, to hell with it. I'll worry about the mechanics later. I'm just going to role play my ass off.
And that's what 5 is really all about.
Yes, it is.
Which I like a lot.
And this will help.
Yeah.
Lot.
Yeah, it's going to. And Lou brings up a really good point. If you're a GM coming from a different version of D&D, this is a good place to kind of start, because I think we were looking at, was it Rage of Demons or something like that, when we first got into or Out of the Abyss.
Out of the Abyss.
Out of the Abyss. Yeah.
And I was looking at it going, gosh, this is awfully sandboxy. And I'm pretty good with sandbox style stuff, because I've been playing with Lou for 30 years, and I know I know if I try to railroad him, he's taking it off the rails. He'll
end up in a biplane.
Yeah, he's going four wheeling. So I was like, that's not bad, but it's a little too sandboxy for the first outing.
Yeah.
With a brand new system.
Yep, I agree.
So that's a very good point you brought up. This is perfect for a GM who's even coming from like 4th edition, which isn't too much of a departure. I mean, the mechanics are similar.
It, so I don't know.
And, the 3s and 3.5, but if you're coming from the THACO days, this is a good place to start because it's manageable.
Also, if you came from another game system entirely.
Absolutely.
And you've played D&D, but you haven't run D&D, and now you need something, as the borders, the rules, stuff like that. You're learning the player's handbook, and in DMG, like we mentioned. This is going to help a lot as well. You may have a familiarity with playing the game, but running it's a whole different critter.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, I would go as far as to say, before you even pick up a campaign, start your little game session, get it going, but start using some of these, because these are very small and light. You don't have to be bogged down by the rules of your campaign setting.
Yeah, and everyone is different. A campaign can kind of feel the same every time you play, and really that's what campaigns are. They have that unified feeling, but this is so episodic that every time you jump into a new adventure in this campaign, it can have a different feel. If you want it dark and serious, there's stuff in here that you can play dark and serious.
Yep.
If you want lighthearted, like beer and pretzel stuff, you can do that too with another one and have that kind of, fun, easygoing game session and then switch it up, so it's not as, it's not the same every time.
Right. And another thing I like about the book, and I said it for beginning GMs, this will help you with, where do I start at a level, where do I end? But if you're an experienced GM like Bill and you both said earlier, you guys can start to scale things up or down. If you're new, you start with the levels it gives you and progress through that way. But if you're experienced, now you can use your experience to scale these up or down, and it just gives you more versatility on how you run this book.
Yeah, I would go as far as to say that you could even practice your scaling skills with this
book.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Another thing, as you guys are talking, I'm reading through this thing, and it occurred to me that not necessarily for your new game masters, but your experienced game masters can look at this, and even if you don't use anything in this book, it'll tell you how to lay out your adventures.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
It does it. I'm sitting there reading going, everything's just kind of like very well compartmentalized. If you just used the bullet points in here and from the beginning of one adventure to the end, and it shows you the progression all the way through from the beginning to the end, it'll help you to write your own material because it'll show you how it's done and done well and how to lay everything out. So you can look at like you said, the very first one, or which one am I on here? Yeah, the Joy of Extra-Dimensional Spaces. It gives a nice little introduction. It gives a description. It goes into description of the area, and then it breaks down the areas and then what you're going to run into in each area. It gives you a little text box and stat blocks for everything that you're going to run into them as you run into it. So the progression through just this one encounter or this one section is very well laid out. And even if you just use that formula for stuff you write yourself, that would, especially for, like I said, you experienced game masters that want to try something different, or even the ones that are not necessarily brand new, but kind of getting their legs under them. And all right, now I've run some campaigns, and that's great. But I got this great idea, but gee, how do I put it on pen? There's a framework here that you can follow, and that will lay it out pretty well for you. So even if you don't use any of the material in the book, just use the framework of the way they lay out the adventures, and it will help you quite a bit. So there's more information in this book than just the book.
And there always is in these cases, isn't there? And that's something to always keep in mind as a GM. And Bill and I have had these conversations for, God, I don't know how long, but well, you were the one that kind of turned me on to, I like this encounter. I think I'll pull it out of this book and I'll plug it into my campaign because and you can do that. So even if you're not planning on running, whatever campaign you buy, or whatever campaign they put out, buy it anyway, because it's got some encounters in there that are certainly going to appeal to you, and you could pull those out and you could plug them into your own campaign, save yourself a little bit of time.
Yep.
Especially if you're pressed, if you happen to be someone that's working, and, as an adult and has especially if you have a family, then sitting down for hours at a time to write a campaign isn't always
feasible.
It's just not, so that use these books to pull encounters out and add them to your own campaign. It'll be a time saver, or run the actual campaign. It's already written out for you.
Yep.
One of the things I really like, and I know you remember this, is the dialogue boxes.
Yep.
Are small. And I like that.
They are. They're very brief. So it gives you more than enough room to expound upon, but
yeah,
you're not reading half a page.
And do you remember those
yes.
Dialogue boxes that they used to do the 3 columns? Remember the 3 columns?
Yes.
And like the 8 font back when you could see, shit that small. And I remember looking at like 2 pages of a dialogue box, but it was like 6 columns total. and I'm thinking, Jesus, after I read this, if I don't fall asleep, my players are gonna. These are nice and manageable. You know, you get like 2 or 3 sentences, but it's enough so that I as a new GM, I got the gist of it, right? And then maybe I'll add a little bit more description into it. You know, the ceiling arches to 15 feet overhead and long hallways stretch out on either side of the foyer. Standing in the middle of this area is a middle-aged man wearing gray robes. That's a nice little bit. If you're a new GM, that's easy to put out there. And if you're a new GM and you want to try to exercise, you know, some of your descriptive ability, it's like the ceiling arches to about 15 feet overhead. It's like you would see in a very old European church. You know, made of stone. There's a middle-aged man with spectacles resting on his nose, wearing gray robes. He's standing in the middle of the room, pacing about, scratching his bald head. You know, he's got wispy gray hair on either side of his head that kind of circles it like a halo almost. Despite wearing glasses, he's squinting a lot as he's trying to read manuscripts or sort through documents in his hand. It's really unsure what exactly it is that he's doing, but he looks, you know, lost in deep thought. You can add that stuff and start to practice it. It's a good set of training wheels for a new GM.
During that entire descriptive narrative, he's staring at me. It's amazing how close. I'm glad I was your inspiration for that moment.
I didn't mention scowl.
Well, I cut you off. Sorry. Continue.
He wasn't yelling, "Get off my lawn."
I'll beat you with my rocking chair.
So what do you think of the price?
For me, it was great. You bought it for me.
Yeah, that's right.
I still owe you for that.
What was it, $30?
30, yeah, I think it was, what, $29.99?
Yeah, $29.99 on Amazon.
Yep. For this much material, I think that's a steal.
Yeah, and the retail is $49.95.
If you get it for that $29.95 or whatever, even on D&D Beyond, I would say jump on it.
Yep.
It's a reasonable price. The quality of the book, in my opinion, warrants the definitely the $29.95.
And it's 17 campaigns. Or not campaigns, excuse me, 17 adventures.
Adventures.
Yeah. So you're looking at, I would say I could get a year's worth of gaming out of this quite easily.
Oh, well, yeah, you think about it. I don't think, especially when you get into the higher levels, you're not going through that in one night.
No.
Maybe in the beginning, probably not 2, at least, probably 3, especially depending on how quick the party moves through it and how well you describe and expound upon what you're seeing and play with it. But 16 adventures, 2 nights per, there's 36 weeks. I'm assuming you're meeting once a week. Yeah. And when you get into the higher levels, those are going to go 3 and 4 nights.
Easily.
So, yeah, you're right. Easily a good year.
Yeah. Not bad, right?
Not bad.
For even if you pay the $50, right, for the book. So say you are fortunate enough to have a friendly local game store that you want to be a patron of, and be supportive of them, then, yeah, do that. Unfortunately, we don't have one in the area.
Not anymore.
Open.
A couple closed on us, and I think the closest one we have is up in Northampton or so. That I think they're still open,
but and you can even have your players kick in a little bit of money, right? Because they're going to get the enjoyment out of it too.
Well, if you think about it, it's 17 adventures at $2 an adventure.
Right? Yeah. Right. I mean, come on, really? $2 an adventure. When you break it down like that, how do you complain? You can't really. I mean, that's a decent deal. You know, even if you're spending the whole $50, if you got a table of 4 players, 5 you total, that's $10 each.
Yep.
And you have enough game for a year. Right? It's
not a bad investment.
It's not a bad. And I would encourage more people to do that for their GMs. Pitch and go, hey man, can I help cover whatever book you get? I'll throw in like a $10 or a $20 bill or something like that to help defray the cost.
Especially because if you really think about it, a lot of books, or most of the books that are put out now, are catered to the players. This one is actually catered to the GM. Most of your books, I don't care, Xanazar's, Tasha's, they're all catered to the player. This one really caters to the GM.
Good point.
Yeah.
Good point. But even still, you got both points. If you have a table with a half dozen people and they steadily show up every week,
yep.
Why should there be the game master or that one person that buys the books, even if it is that one person that always seems to have, and we all have one on our table. Hi, Tom. That has to have every book.
It's got to.
And tries to get it before the game master.
Yes. They want to pull something.
Look at Lou's eyes light up as he stares. Yeah, there you go, Scott. You have to have every book. Yes, I want it first.
Yeah. Damn right.
Got to get that out there.
Sold yourself out on that one. Let them buy every book. But what's wrong with everyone going, okay, to our point, full price, $50.
Let's pitch in.
Everyone throws in $5.
It helps the game.
Yeah. And it's like, you bring it, we all use it. Okay. I tell you what, here's only got $2. All right. Well, if everyone threw in $2, that's 10. That's fine. That's something. He's going to buy it anyways.
Exactly. Help defer that cost.
Right. Defer the cost. It doesn't mean the whole table has to cover the cost of every book.
These books add up.
They do. They add up fast at $30, $40, $50 a pop, depending on which ones and where you're getting them.
Yep.
Lend a hand. I mean, you're getting the adventure. You're borrowing the book. Why is it not worth $4, $5, $10?
Yep.
It hell yeah. Help so let that one guy buy every single book. If he's willing to bring it every week and let everyone use it, then defer the cost. Lend a helping hand.
Yeah, you're all throwing in on a pizza, right?
Yeah, well, you would think so.
You hope so.
Yeah. So you're all pitching in on a pizza.
Yeah, you're bringing snacks, you're bringing soda, throw it in the middle of the table. Everyone, so why wouldn't you do it with the books too?
And to Bill's point too, it's like, you know what? If you get a player that shows up and the older you get, the more you're going to realize that things are always in flux, right?
Yeah.
Especially with this pandemic. Some people have not enough work. Some people have too much, depending on what industry they're in. So if all they can pitch in is $2 or $3, hey man, that's $2 or $3 that you don't have to pay.
Yes.
So be understanding of that too.
And appreciative.
And especially appreciative.
Because $2, $3 to one person could mean a whole lot more than $2, $3 to the next guy.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And that's our initial look at the Candlekeep Mysteries. We'll see you next week in the dojo. That's going to conclude this episode. Thanks for tuning in and listening. Please subscribe to the podcast for more great content. If you'd like to hear a particular topic, you can reach us on Facebook at the Dungeon Masters Dojo, or you can drop us an email at thedungeonmastersdojo@gmail.com. Thank you, and have a good day.